The night was quiet in the little alleyway, save for the sound of dripping water from a broken pipe and the soft shuffle of bare feet against the cracked pavement. A boy of no more than 12, thin to the bone, with hair that hadn't seen a comb in days, carried a small plastic bag pressed tightly to his chest. Inside the bag were scraps, half a loaf of bread one of the bakery workers had handed him, 2 slightly bruised bananas salvaged from a fruit cart, and a bottle of water. To anyone else, it might seem like nothing. To him, it was treasure, enough to keep him and his mother alive another day. His name was Elias. He lived with his mother in a run-down shack made of wood, tarpaulin, and rusted metal sheets on the edge of the city. The structure leaned dangerously whenever a storm hit, and the roof leaked so badly that they often had to put bowls and basins in every corner to catch the falling rain. But to Elias, it was home, the only place where his mother's soft lullabies filled the darkness and where he could still dream. That night, as he pushed the squeaky door open and stepped inside, his mother looked up. Her face was tired, thinner than it used to be, but her eyes still shone when they rested on him. "You're late, Eli," she said softly, her voice hoarse. "I was worried." "I got us something, Mama," he said with a small smile, setting the plastic bag on their makeshift wooden table. She peeked inside and her lips trembled. Oh, this is good. God bless the kind hands who gave you these." She touched his hair, smoothing it down, though her hands shook with weakness. Elias watched her carefully, worry etched in his young face. His mother hadn't been well for months. A persistent cough rattled her chest, and sometimes she grew so weak she could hardly stand. He tried to hide his fear, but deep inside, it gnawed at him. What if he lost her? She was all he had. They shared the bread and bananas that night, sitting side by side on the floor because the wooden chairs had long since broken. The small battery lamp flickered, casting long shadows against the walls. "Eli," his mother whispered after a while, "do you remember the songs your papa used to sing?" Elias's face lit up. Though his father had passed away when he was very little, he remembered the melodies. His father used to sing to his mother, gentle ballads filled with hope, even when life was hard. "I remember, Mama. Sometimes I sing them when I'm alone." Her tired smile widened. "You have a voice, my boy. A gift. Never hide it. One day, it will take you somewhere far, somewhere brighter than this place." Elias lowered his gaze, feeling a warmth in his chest. He did love to sing. It was his escape when the stage lights were blinding. Elias blinked as he stood in the center, his small frame dwarfed by the enormous space around him. The wooden floor beneath his worn shoes felt strange, too polished, almost slippery. His heart thundered in his chest like a drum that refused to stop. A man with a headset leaned in, whispering quickly, "Name? Age? Song choice?" Elias," the boy stammered, his voice barely audible. 12. I'm singing a song my father used to sing." The man gave a quick nod and gestured toward the judges. Elias lifted his gaze. There they were, the 4 judges everyone in the city knew, their faces plastered on every poster. They were larger than life, people who had seen thousands of performers. Their expressions were unreadable, but Elias could sense the weight of their eyes on him. The audience behind them was even more overwhelming, rows upon rows of faces, cameras, lights flashing. He felt the old fear claw at him again, "You don't belong here. They'll laugh." But then, in his mind, he heard his mother's voice, "Sing from your heart, Eli." He gripped the microphone with both hands, fingers trembling. The host gave him a gentle nod. "Whenever you're ready, son." Elias closed his eyes. At first, the sound that came from him was fragile, almost like a whisper. A few people in the audience leaned forward, straining to hear. The judges exchanged quick glances, curious, skeptical. But then, as Elias drew a deep breath, his voice grew stronger. It wasn't polished like the others, not trained or perfect. But it carried something rare, truth. He sang about nights of hunger, though he never used those words. He sang about his father's love, about holding on to dreams when everything else was broken. The melody was simple, but his voice cracked with emotion, raw and unfiltered. The auditorium grew still. Conversations hushed, phones lowered, even the skeptical laughter from earlier evaporated into silence. It was as though everyone in that massive room leaned in, heart straining to catch every word. Elias's voice wavered at points, but each crack only made it more real. He clutched the microphone as though it were the only thing keeping him standing. His eyes squeezed shut, and a single tear slid down his cheek. On the judges' panel, one woman covered her mouth with her hand, eyes glistening. Another leaned forward, her usual stern expression softened, as though she had been caught off guard by something she never expected to feel. By the second verse, Elias's voice had swelled into something soaring, as if the small boy had grown wings right there on stage. The audience felt it, the longing, the pain, but also the fierce spark of hope woven into his every note. A man in the front row whispered, "He's singing his life." The cameras zoomed in on Elias's face, eyes shut, tears glistening on his lashes, mouth trembling but still pouring out song. He was no longer a poor boy in torn shoes. He was a storyteller, his V.